Before airplanes, before automobiles, before the digital revolution of Silicon Valley, there was one industry that ruled the pulse of America: the railroads. They were the gatekeepers of the continent. They controlled transportation, dictated prices, and influenced politicians. Entire states lived or died by their rail lines. But in the shadows of the Gilded Age, one man decided he would beat the railroad kings at their own game. His name was John D. Rockefeller. By the 1860s, oil was exploding into America's most important new business. Kerosene was the fuel of the world, lighting homes from New York to London. But for every barrel produced, there was a bottleneck. Pipelines were non-existent. To move oil, you needed the railroads, and the railroads knew they held all the cards. The railroad companies charged whatever they wanted. Prices would soar one week and crash the next. For most refiners, transportation costs were a death sentence. Rockefeller saw what others missed. The real power wasn't in the dirt or the wells, it was in the system that moved the product. Control the system and you control the industry. He approached the railroad kings with an offer they couldn't refuse: guaranteed massive volume in exchange for secret shipping discounts. These were the rebates. While his competitors were bled dry by high shipping costs, Standard Oil moved product for a fraction of the price. The gap in profit was Rockefeller's first major weapon. But Rockefeller went further. He negotiated drawbacks, a scheme where the railroads actually paid Standard Oil a portion of the fees collected from his competitors. Think about that. Rockefeller's rivals were unknowingly funding the very machine that was designed to destroy them. It was a loop of industrial conquest. In 1871, this reached its peak with the South Improvement Company, a secret alliance between Rockefeller and the railroads to eliminate all independent refiners. When the secret leaked, the public was outraged. Protests erupted. The South Improvement Company was legally dismantled, but the damage was already done. Rockefeller didn't panic. He realized that to truly defeat the railroads, he had to stop needing them all together. He changed his entire strategy. He began building his own network of pipelines. It was an engineering feat that threatened the very existence of the railroad's oil business. Pipelines were faster, cheaper, and impossible for the railroads to control. Suddenly, the railroad kings were the ones losing leverage. This was the birth of vertical integration. Rockefeller owned every link in the chain. He was no longer a customer of the system, he was the system. By the 1880s, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's oil. The railroads that once dictated terms to him were now begging for his business. His expansion was relentless. Efficiency was his religion. He lowered the price of kerosene for everyone, but he did it by crushing every obstacle in his path. Rockefeller was obsessed with every fraction of a cent. He once famously reduced the number of drops of solder on a kerosene can from 40 to 39, saving a fortune. For his competitors, there was no mercy. You either sold to Standard Oil at his price, or you were starved of transportation until you went bankrupt. As the empire grew, so did the backlash. To the public, Rockefeller wasn't just a businessman, he was a monster, a monopoly that threatened the very fabric of American democracy. Enter Ida Tarbell. Her relentless investigative reporting exposed the secret deals, the rebates, and the ruthless tactics that built Standard Oil. The truth was finally out. The United States government finally intervened. Under the Sherman Antitrust Act, the most powerful company in the world was dragged into the Supreme Court. In 1911, the verdict came down. Standard Oil was ordered to be broken into 34 independent companies. The monopoly was officially over. But here's the irony. The breakup actually made Rockefeller the richest man in history. The individual pieces were worth far more than the whole. In his final years, the world's most hated man became its greatest philanthropist, giving away over $500 million. He sought to change his legacy. But his business strategies never died. Today's tech giants follow the same playbook: build the platform, dominate distribution, and out-leverage the competition. Rockefeller proved that in business, leverage is more powerful than force. He didn't just play the game, he owned the stadium. He realized that the company controlling the infrastructure often becomes more powerful than the companies using it. Control the system, control the market. His success was built on three pillars: ruthless efficiency, strategic leverage, and an unbreakable grip on transportation, a strategy that redefined modern capitalism. But the cost of conquest was high, a legacy of monopoly that forced a nation to redefine its laws and its relationship with corporate power. A century later, the shadows of Standard Oil still loom over every boardroom and every marketplace. The rules may have changed, but the principles of power remain the same. This has been a Spotlight Business Report special presentation, analyzing the titans who built the world. Data-driven, fearless, fueled, understanding the history of leverage to master the future of business. Thank you for watching. Visit SBR for more deep dives into the history of power.